The words Xiao Hung had spoken, "I have no real interest in immortal cultivation," still echoed clearly in Li Fan's mind, along with the exact tone of his voice. How much time had passed since then? How had he succeeded in purging the miasma from his body and breaking through to the Qi refinement realm in such a short span? For a moment, Li Fan was overwhelmed with shock and disbelief. He read Xiao Hung's letter over and over again, then went out to verify the information through inquiries. In the end, he could only reluctantly accept that it was indeed the truth. As it happened, even though Li Fan had confidently assured him that the rumors about smuggled mortals were aimed solely at Tianbao Pavilion, Xiao Hung still felt deeply unsettled upon returning home. He tossed and turned sleeplessly throughout the night. Each time he shut his eyes, horrifying scenes flooded his mind, an immortal master descending from the skies, mercilessly slaughtering all the inhabitants of the Li world, desperate for peaceful sleep, and even more crucially, to become a cultivator and escape this perpetual fear. He started diligently cultivating the Xianhuang Heart Clarification Sutra. To his surprise, once Xiao Hung truly concentrated his efforts, his advancement proved remarkably swift. Assisted by medicinal aids, he managed to fully expel the miasma from his body in under a month all by himself. Then, as though immersed in a profound and tranquil slumber, he successfully guided Qi into his body. Initially, he wasn't completely certain that he had truly become one of those legendary immortal masters, but when he attempted to be intimate with the maid at home, a mere light embrace nearly cost her her life. Immortals and mortals were forever separated by an insurmountable gulf. In that instant, Xiao Hung finally realized beyond doubt that he had indeed stepped onto the path of cultivation. Even though Xiao Hung had successfully entered the Qi refinement realm, he remained utterly clueless about his next steps. He therefore requested a meeting with the immortal master stationed on Lili Island. Regrettably, He Zhenghao was tied up at that moment with maintaining the body purification spirit pool formation and could not step away. With no other option, Xiao Hung returned home and waited patiently. Only after Li Fan had emerged from the spirit pool and He Zhenghao finally freed up some time was Xiao Hung able to meet with him. Upon listening to Xiao Hung's story and thoroughly examining him, He Zhenghao verified that everything the young man said was true. Initially, he was ecstatic, then, all of a sudden, he slapped his thigh, his expression turning to one of deep regret. After a brief pause to compose himself, he eagerly began preparations to escort Xiao Hung to Myriad Immortals Island. Xiao Hung expressed his deep gratitude to Li Fan for his repeated help, vowing to wait for him on Myriad Immortals Island and repay the favor someday in the future. Big brother, I owe everything I've achieved to your protection. I've heard the news that you've successfully purged your miasma. I trust it won't be long before you break through to Qi refinement. I'll go on ahead and wait for your arrival on Myriad Immortals Island. When we meet again, if there's anything you need from me, I won't dare refuse, even if it costs me my life. With deepest respect, I bow to you once more, Hung. Li Fan thought to himself. So this was what a true heaven-defying genius was like. Without any guidance, he had fumbled his way into the Qi refinement realm by pure accident. He could even sense the spiritual Qi of heaven and earth greeting him with affection. But what if one's talent is peerless? What I rely on is the countless chances to start over granted to me by Return to Truth. With Return to Truth in my hands, no matter what kind of genius it is, I am confident I can crush them all. The Heart Refinement Sutra operated, and Li Fan's turbulent thoughts gradually stilled. He opened the 5 spirits Qi sensing method He Zhenghao had given him and began to read it carefully. According to the book, in ancient times, the concept of spirit roots existed. In those days, only mortals who possessed spiritual roots were able to cultivate. These included the common 5-element spiritual roots: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, as well as the variant types such as thunder, wind, and darkness. Spiritual roots were bestowed by the heavens themselves. Only the rare individuals blessed with heaven's favor could sense the laws of the world, gain the right to pursue the Tao, and ultimately achieve immortality. Yet the number of ordinary mortals was immense. While those possessing spiritual roots formed only a tiny fraction, the vast majority could merely look upon the path of cultivation from a distance, forever unable to step onto it. How unjust was that? Fortunately, in those ancient times, an immortal venerable came to preach the Tao. The five spirits chi sensing method recounted how the immortal venerable manifested his Dharma body, projected onto heaven and earth, to reveal a way forward for the mortals who had long sought eternal life in vain. The immortal venerable declared, "Why must I beg heaven if I wish to become immortal? If heaven will not give, I shall take it myself. Submit to heaven and remain mortal, defy heaven and become immortal. The path of immortality is: draw upon the spirit of heaven and earth to harness its chi, borrow the curios of heaven and earth to build a Tao foundation, peer into the laws of heaven and earth to refine a golden core, seize the essence of heaven and earth to form a nascent soul, extract the marrow of heaven and earth to obtain its spirit, sacrifice the soul of heaven and earth to unify one's body with the Tao. Defy the principles of heaven and earth to attain eternal life." With a thud, the five spirits chi sensing method slipped from Li Fan's grasp and hit the floor, as he could no longer hide the profound shock surging through his soul. The cultivation methods of this world were entirely unlike anything Li Fan had imagined. One could even call them somewhat terrifying. No wonder he had sensed something off about this world's cultivators from the very first moment he encountered them. The heavenly Tao of this world appeared to harbor profound malice toward cultivators of immortal techniques, whether it was the rule prohibiting multiple cultivators from practicing the identical immortal technique, the strange phenomenon where a cultivator's death caused the heavens to glow for thousands of li as if announcing it to the world, or the unsettling immortal mortal miasma present in ordinary mortals. A substance highly toxic to cultivators, everything pointed to a single conclusion. Now, having personally entered the world of cultivation, Li Fan at last grasped the truth. Defy the principles of heaven and earth to attain eternal life. Li Fan murmured under his breath, letting out a long, heavy sigh. The deeper Li Fan delved into the five spirits chi sensing method's explanations of the immortal path, the more profoundly disturbing he found them. Following this overview of the origins of the modern cultivation world, the book proceeded to detail the cultivation technique of the five spirits chi sensing method. If an ordinary individual, even after clearing away their miasma, still found it difficult to naturally draw chi into their body, they could instead cultivate their innate five spirits to forcefully pull in spiritual chi from the surrounding world. Once the chi was refined, they could then successfully break through to the chi refinement realm. These five spirits corresponded to the five innate emotions of humanity: greed, fear, anger, hatred, and obsession with self. These emotions resided deep within the human heart, endless in supply and capable of regenerating themselves. The five spirits chi sensing method outlined how to employ these five spirits as fuel to cultivate a heaven-earth root inside the Dantian. This root linked the cultivator's Dantian directly to heaven and earth. Once established, it allowed the cultivator to forcefully extract spiritual chi from the world and claim it as their own. Individuals with extraordinary talent could fully form their heaven-earth root in just a single day and night, thereby stepping onto the path of cultivation. Even those completely devoid of cultivation talent could, through persistent daily practice, eventually form their own root within a decade at most. Having mastered this technique for drawing chi into his body, Li Fan began isolating himself at home, dedicating himself day after day to cultivating the five spirits chi sensing method. He had already prepared himself mentally for the fact that his journey toward immortality would be anything but easy, yet, despite 3 full years of unwavering effort, Li Fan still hadn't managed to draw in any chi. The five spirits chi sensing method relied on 5 particular emotions as fuel to trigger the formation of the heaven-earth root. However, because Li Fan was cultivating the Xiao Hung Heart Refinement Sutra, those 5 emotions could only build up in extremely small quantities. Having been cooped up at home for so long, Li Fan eventually grew restless and decided to go out for a walk. A somewhat familiar voice rang out from behind him. "Elderly?" Li Fan turned around, scrutinizing the man's face for a moment before realization struck. "You!" It was none other than Zhang Haobo, the captain of the Tseng Yuan. As he gazed at Li Fan, his eyes brimmed with both reverence and joy. "Elderly, it's been a long time." Li Fan had a rather favorable impression of the man, so he smiled and replied. "It's you. It's been several years since we last met. How have you been doing lately?" Zhang Haobo dared not brush off the question and replied candidly. "It's all thanks to you, elderly. The ship has enjoyed substantial profits over the past few years. With your talent for bringing back treasures on every trip, plenty of young people are eager to join our crew. Our pay and standing on the island have improved greatly as well. Now there are quite a few envious glances directed our way. But lately, though, the crew on the Tsingyuan has been discussing the idea of leaving Liuli Island entirely. I've been seriously considering it myself. Li Fan was rather surprised. Oh? Things seem to be going well for you. Why would you suddenly think of leaving? Zhang Haobo paused for a moment, seemingly collecting his thoughts. After a brief silence, he looked around cautiously and lowered his voice. To be honest, elderly, lately when we're out at sea, we've been encountering all sorts of strange occurrences. Such as? In these recent voyages, we've been pulling up thousands of pounds with each haul. The nets come back absolutely crammed full. 9 out of every 10 casts yield the same result. A chaotic mix of all kinds of fish. It really seems like the entire ocean's fish are congregating, desperately fleeing from something. What else? Li Fan pondered briefly before asking further. Zhang Haobo spoke with a serious expression. We've lived on Lily Island since we were boys, so we're familiar with every reef in these waters, but lately, more rocks have been emerging above the surface than we've ever seen before. The water levels naturally fluctuate each year. That's to be expected, yet this time, something feels wrong about the change. It's left all of us feeling unsettled. Zhang Haobo continued. There's one more thing weighing on us even more heavily. Over the past 3 years, we haven't seen a single storm flood, not here around Liuli Island, nor anywhere else in the entire Tsongyan Sea. We've spoken with crews from other islands, and every one of them confirms the same thing. Storm floods have completely vanished from the Tsongyan Sea for 3 years in a row. Uncertain what this meant, Li Fan remained silent. Zhang Haobo hastily added. Storm floods have never ceased before, not once in my entire life. In fierce years, we'd encounter a dozen or more, and even in milder ones, at least 2 or 3, that's how it's been for decades. But now, 3 whole years have passed without a single one. Some people on the island are celebrating, claiming the immortal masters are protecting us. My brothers and I, though, we don't view it that way. This isn't a blessing, it's far too abnormal. Something major is building up out there. I can sense it deep in my gut. Zhang Haobo declared firmly. Li Fan mused after a moment's thought, offering words of comfort. Perhaps it just means the weather will be getting a bit hotter in the future. The island is protected by a grand array. An immortal master he guards the island. Even if some situation arises, I imagine he will be able to handle it. Zhang Haobo said with a bitter smile. Your reasoning's sound, elderly. Plenty of our brothers aboard think the same, but I've got this worry gnawing at me. No matter what I tell myself, it won't let go. This interlude soon passed, and Li Fan continued to cultivate. Another year went by. Yuzhen had finally accumulated sufficient strength and returned to Yelan Island in high spirits. After some turmoil, she managed to seize back the position of head shopkeeper of the Tianbao Pavilion's headquarters. With the recent stabilization of affairs on Yelan Island, numerous minor matters still demanded her personal oversight, to guard against opportunistic individuals switching allegiances and triggering a reversal. Yuzhen would need to stay on the island for the coming years and could not return home. She merely dispatched a messenger to deliver the favorable news to Li Fan. From time to time, Xiao Hung would send letters through messengers to check on Li Fan's well-being. It seemed that Xiao Hung was advancing at an astonishing pace, having already reached the mid-stage of the Qi refinement realm. In the end, Zhang Haobo decided to depart from the Tsongyan Sea along with several of his brothers from the Tsangyuan. The world was filled with upheaval and turmoil, yet Li Fan regarded it all as a distant, uninvolved spectator. He merely continued his cultivation with steady patience. On that day, a stir arose in Li Fan's mind. Strands of spiritual qi from heaven and earth threaded their way along the heaven-earth route, gently flowing into his dantian before quickly dispersing throughout his entire body. It was akin to a water wheel channeling river water to nourish long-parched, fertile soil. In the 7th year since Li Fan had entered the world of cultivation, he at last broke through to the qi refinement realm.